Okay, so we're going to go to the NFL, winter meetings here pretty quick. But the over and unders are now, with all the betting companies, are coming out. Vegas over unders. So these numbers are, how many games do you think a team can win? And, as you know, they always come in half, 7.5, 8.5. And you, as a consumer, bet the under or bet the over. Now, most fans bet the over. They're optimistic. I tend to find unders, but I found 3 unders and 3 overs that are interesting. So let's go to the conferences first. The one that jumps out to me, let's start in the AFC. For our radio audience, Bills 11.5, Dolphins 8.5, Jets 5.5. The Patriots at 7.5 to me feels like an over. Massive upgrade on coaching staff. Also, they were 3-6 in one-score games with a rookie quarterback. So there's going to be an ascension. They're going to be a better one-score game team. They spent almost $200 million in free agency. I would bet the over on the Patriots. Let's go to the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. Nothing jumps out to me. Ravens 11.5, Bengals 9.5, Steelers 8.5, Browns 5.5. Nothing seems underwhelming or overwhelming. The next division, projected win totals, AFC South. This is one of my favorite overs. So the Texans at 9.5, Colts, Jags 7.5 wins, the Titans at 5.5. Bet the over. Brian Callahan, listen, he was so frustrated. Will Levis arguably gave 3 wins away last year. So Cam Ward, there's just not going to be, nobody's going to quite know what to do until he has an off season. Remember, C.J. Stroud came in, and it kind of feels like everybody's kind of waiting for C.J. Stroud to fall apart, and he didn't. So I think Cam Ward, the upgrade, Cam Ward to Will Levis, is going to get you to 7 or 8 or 9 wins in this division. Just a very weak AFC South. Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. I think Kansas City under 11.5 is one of my favorite bets. Broncos 9.5, Chargers 9.5, Raiders 6.5. I'd probably go over Chargers, but the under on Kansas City. Remember, they were 11-0 in one-score games. Like recovering fumbles, regression is coming. Even if they go 8-3, nobody goes 11-0 in one-score games. Also, they're still trying to figure out their offensive line. Joe Tooney left, their best offensive lineman. And they don't, they're using somebody's backup at left tackle. They're an injury away in the O-line from being a complete mess. They're also getting older in key spots. Now we go to the NFC. I have an over and an under bet in the same division. So Eagles 11.5, that's about right. I'm going to take the over on the Commanders and the under on the Cowboys. So listen, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. I just talked to somebody, a friend, who was at an event Jaden Daniels was at in the last couple of weeks. The kid's unbelievable. They spent money, the coaching, 9.5. I mean, they're going to go 2-0 against the Cowboys and 2-0 against the Giants. So I think the Commanders is, 10-7 with the Lamar Jackson of the NFC at quarterback. Shock anybody? Also, the Cowboys, I would bet the under. I don't think anybody's quite embracing. Brian Schottenheimer, to me, had struggled to remain at the same place as a coordinator. I think they went cheap. They also got to pay Micah. Again, this is a team that's a CeeDee Lamb sprained ankle from, being fairly weaponless. I would take the under. Now we go. Nothing jumps out to me at the NFC North. Lions 10.5, Packers 9.5, Bears 8.5, Vikings 8.5. Nothing jumps out to me. Everybody wants to bet the Bears in the over. Be careful. Nothing really jumps out to me in the NFC South. Bucks should win. Best roster. Falcons maybe a little underserved, but I refuse to bet the Falcons on anything. I've lost a fortune over the years. Panthers, Saints, both 6.5 wins. Now, there are 2 surprises to me in the NFC West. I would take the under on the Niners 10.5. They are getting old in key spots. You got Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury, and then Brandon Ayuk coming off an injury. They have 12 draft picks. That is a lot of young players. Rookies don't flourish generally except key positions in the NFL. Also, they lost Greenlaw and Hufanga. They wanted to keep both. Those are leaders, great instinctive players. So we haven't loved their defense for the last couple of years, and when Bosa gets hurt, it's a bad defense. And he's getting older. I would bet the under on the Niners at 10.5. I would bet the over on the Rams at 9.5. They need a corner. Outside of that, they are set. They're getting better. The defense got better Thanksgiving on. So the Rams, I would take the over. So my over and under bets, I would take the Commanders over 9.5, the Patriots over 7.5, and the Titans over 5.5. My unders are the Chiefs under 11.5, the Niners under 10.5, the Cowboys under 7.5. I also think the Rams can hit the over. I think the Rams can hit the over. McVay, Stafford, Devontae Adams, they cannot be as physically immobile as they were last year when the offensive line fell apart. That's not going to happen again. They'll have more depth. They're going to draft a tackle early in this draft. So, J-Mac, anything jump out to you?
Too much, actually. I know we have a guest coming up. We definitely need to revisit this. I've got some beef with some stuff you're saying. The one thing that really jumped out, so I see Titans 5.5. Totally agree. But did I see the Jets and the Giants are also 5.5? Meaning those are the 3 worst teams in the league? Oh, my gosh. I didn't know the Jets had fallen that far. 5.5 win total? Oh, my gosh. It's bleak.
Yeah. I mean, New York football's bleak.
Terrible.
So NFL owners on average are pretty well liked by their players. How do I know that? Because they have an anonymous NFLPA survey every year, and the grades went up and up and up, except for 4 teams. One of the teams that graded very poorly on virtually everything was the New York Jets, who got an F in ownership and a C to a C minus to a C plus. They were like 24th or worse on virtually everything. Now, Woody Johnson fired back at the owners' meetings. We're going to Albert Breer in about 45 minutes from now. And that Woody Johnson said, I love this quote. He said, this is a bunch of hooey, the whole process, how they collected the information. It's supposed to be a process where we have representatives, they have them, so we know it's an honest survey. Here are the 4 teams that got really bad grades. Arizona, Michael Bidwell, historically cheap. The Jets and Woody Johnson, Cleveland and Jimmy Haslam, and Carolina and the very impulsive David Tepper. I don't know any of the men, but it kind of checks out, right? You know who used to do really bad at this? Dan Snyder, Washington. Yeah, he got forced out of the league. So, and the Jets, by the way, have the longest drought, this is true, in North American sports. Longest playoff drought. We're talking all the sports in North America, Canadian teams, our teams. No. So the Jets have also, they're doing a doge on their front office. They've offered to buy out roughly 170 of the 250 employees. What does that tell you? So ask yourself, how did the Washington Commanders turn around immediately? They'd run through GMs and coaches and players. They got rid of the owner. And how did the Clippers go from a laughingstock to viable almost overnight? They got a new owner. The Dodgers, since they got rid of cheapskate Frank McCord, 2 World Series titles, 11 division titles. He was an awful owner. They got rid of him. I think he still owns the parking lot. Bad owner, left. Team immediately got better. The market didn't change. The stadium didn't change. The owner left. So you see a pretty common thread. I mean, I've worked in my life, I've worked for 6 different corporations. 2 radio, Entercom, and iHeart. And I've worked for 4 different television corporations. One of them smaller, Sunbelt, Fox, Disney, Belo was Texas-based. I think it got gobbled up. So I've worked for 6 different corporations. And I've worked for some great ones. I'm in a very good spot right now. And I've said that multiple times. And I've worked for some stinkers. And let me tell you, the difference is not the employees. I've worked with great employees my entire life. The difference is the ownership. Bad ownership, what do they say? The fish rots head first. Like, it's bad ownership ruins the temperature in the room. It creates anxiety. So, you start looking around. Look at the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban leaves. Protests, trade off Luka for just not enough. It matters. So Woody Johnson can point fingers on this stuff, but overall, if you look at all players voting on this stuff, it was really an encouraging NFLPA survey. Like, almost all the teams went up, except for the Jets and Carolina and Cleveland and Arizona. And and you start looking at these individual rankings, it's C plus down. I mean, the only thing the Jets did well was nutritionist. I mean, you would think in New York, L.A., San Francisco, some of the hip markets, the nutritionist would be kind of a guaranteed A. No. I don't even have a nutritionist. I would give mine a B+. I don't even have one. Like, you got to be able to get smoothies right. Sorry. But they did everything poorly. Weight room, ownership, how you treat families, meals. Come on. I don't think it's a lack of honesty, because everybody else in the league, except like 4 teams, everybody was like, yeah, things are good. Things are better. We had TJ Hushmanzada on this show, telling the story that it used to be with like the Cincinnati Bengals, they all threw their jock straps in the middle of the room and washed them. Linebacker has it one day, slot corner has it the next. I mean, come on.